Love between two people is the highest form of all. It's the complete getting rid of outside of yourself. It is the highest form of love. It is the love that is behind all of the spiritual experience. People are more defensive. They're more locked inside themselves. They're more locked inside their phone.
The person who says that, who says, I'm not a narcissist, I'm so noble, I'm not like that, is actually a great narcissist, because they think so highly of themselves. They think they're so different from anybody else, but they're not different. We are all self-absorbed to some degree.
The point of regret? You tell me what the point is? The past is the past. If you want to learn from the past, if you said, I did something wrong, I hurt somebody, all right, I won't do it again. What's the point of regretting it? Yeah, you're right, it's for their ego. I've had a lot of tough things. I've made mistakes. I don't regret any of them. I outshone the master and got fired twice. Painful experiences. But if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been able to write law number 1 of the 48 laws of power. I don't regret anything. And I'm serious about that, or sincere about that. Now, love, I'm somebody who loves animals. I've always had dogs and cats in my life, and I'm not putting her in second place behind this, and I have a wife, a girlfriend and wife. And so to me, the feeling is of losing yourself in this other being. So the title of that particular chapter is Escape the Prison of the Ego, Love Sublime. So you're trapped inside of your ego, you're trapped inside of your own walls, you're defensive, you have your own experiences, you have your own world, and it can get oppressive. It can feel like you're in a prison, the same thoughts over and over again, the same worries, the same concerns. It's boring. It's banal. Other people draw you out of that world. And when you love someone, you're slowly dissolving all of those ego barriers. You're entering their world, and you have a sense of oneness with their other being, right? And you can have that with animals. You can have that with a man or a woman. You can have that, I guess, with a group. You can have that with the universe as a spiritual experience, which is a part of a lot of religions. But it's the feeling of losing all those hard barriers of the ego. It's softening. In Buddhism, in Zen, they call it ego attrition. The slowly dissolving, smaller and smaller the ego becomes. And as it dissolves, you feel a sense of unity, everything around you. Well, if it's with a person, it's a wonderful feeling. And somehow people think of, like, there's like a scale, a hierarchy of love, as if love between a man and a woman is degraded, but love with God is something higher. I'm saying no, love between two people is the highest form of all. It's the complete getting rid of outside of yourself. It is the highest form of love. It is the love that is behind all of the spiritual experiences. So I wrote the chapter because I think people nowadays aren't capable of loving. They're too protective. They're too defensive. They don't want to feel hurt because they don't want to be hurt. They don't want to give so much of themselves. They don't want to be generous with their spirit. They want to protect themselves. So at the slightest kind of conflict with their partner, they retreat and they get into their shell. I'm not saying it's just this generation, but I think it's getting worse and worse and worse. People are more defensive. They're more locked inside themselves. They're more locked inside their phone, right? So I wrote the book because it seems like romantic love between a man and a woman is seen as something corny and sentimental and old-fashioned, and like we've outgrown that here in the 21st century. Man, that is really sad, and that is really pathetic of you. And that is really actually to deprive yourself of some of the greatest emotions that a human can have. In the chapter, I talk about the word falling, which is very appropriate. So you're falling. You're literally like you're on a mountain and you're falling, right? That could be a scary sensation. Like, what if I hit the ground? What if I'm crushed? What if I'm killed by it? And then you become worried and I'm not going to fall. I'm going to catch myself halfway and I'm going to pull myself back up. I'm saying you want to keep falling. So if you have a conflict with the person that you love, which is inevitable, which we've all had and I have even to this day, it's not a moment for you to step back and protect yourself and get out of the relationship and go onto Tinder and quickly find somebody else. It's the moment to work on it, to move past it, to get outside of yourself, to see their perspective. You know, you find there's something I wrote in The Laws of Human Nature, which is a basic thing of psychology. Human interactions are back and forth. It's never one side doing one thing. So if the other person is suddenly acting prickly and defensive and unpleasant around you, it very well might be coming from you. It might be because you are the one kind of feeling that way. You're infecting them with that emotion. You're projecting it onto them. You're imagining it's all coming from them. They're the one at fault. But actually, it's a game of tennis. It's going back and forth. You're part of it as well. So if there are problems, a lot of it could be stemming from yourself. So look inward. And the more that you give of yourself, the more that you stop being so defensive, it infects the other person and they open up to you as well. Fall all the way until you hit the ground. Splatter. There's a concept of the bad seed. So there's a very good movie that was made, I think, in the late 50s, early 60s called The Bad Seed. And it's about this woman, her husband's away in the army and she has a daughter, this cute little blonde girl, 7, 8 years old. And she's actually incredibly evil. She's like killing people to get their little prize that they won in some ceremony, right? She's killed like 3 people in the course of the movie, but she's so sweet and angelic. And the movie's called The Bad Seed. And in the course of the movie, you learn that probably her parents or grandparents were also killers. So there's a question of, are some people genetically born that way? I don't know. It's a good question. And there's evidence for possibly that. So there's a famous psychoanalyst from the 40s named Melanie Klein, a Freudian psychologist, psychoanalyst. Her specialty was studying babies and infants. And she wrote brilliant books about how infants think and what their world is like, which is a fascinating subject. And she spent her whole life studying them. She had this concept that there are greedy babies. And what she determined was a greedy baby is sucking on the mother's breast almost violently and wants more milk, more milk, more milk, more milk from the mother. They're already greedy. And they're going to grow up being people that need and want more and more of the world. They're going to push others around. They're going to be aggressive. She speculated that it was genetic, that there was like a genetic component to them being born this way. But she was speculating. You know, most people are born innocent. They're children. And if they're corrupted by their parents and by the world. But there could be some 2%, 1% of people who are literally born bad seed, who will become serial killers because there's something genetically wrong with them. There are things going on in my country right now that are really deeply disturbing me because I'm American. I was born in America, raised here, educated here, and have a kind of instinctual love of my country. And there are things going on for me that are unforgivable, that make me embarrassed, that make me ashamed, that make me very, very angry. And so I've always been somebody who loves other cultures. So I love America. I love our literature. I love our music. But there isn't a culture in the world that I'm not interested in because they're fascinating. Everybody, you know, in Los Angeles, we grew up with a Latino culture that's very strong, even in the 60s. And I always loved it. My parents would take me to this part of LA called Olvera Street. I was just mesmerized by the different colors, the different food. I love other cultures. And so the sense of nationalism, of America first, of white people first, of this first, it disgusts me. It's unforgivable because the truth is we all come from the same mother hundreds of thousands of years ago. We're all related.
I had a job at a television show whose name I will not mention because it's almost like I'm too embarrassed. But it was a kind of a slight quasi-reality show at the beginning of that whole genre. And I was a researcher, and my job was to find the stories that they would shoot for this show. And I was by far the best researcher there. And you could measure it. There were metrics. My research turned into stories at a higher percentage than anybody else. Okay? And I ended up getting fired. Right? And why did I get fired? I mean, I was producing. I was doing a great job. It was because I wasn't getting along with my superior. I wasn't playing the ego game. I had a bit of an attitude myself. And the idea that struck me was that in this realm where, you know, it's so important to like make a lot of money and have success and have a show or a film that does really well, wouldn't you reward somebody like myself who actually had brought results? No, it was about ego. And in Hollywood, it's the same in the music business. It's the same in a lot of creative ventures in the art world, where what makes you famous and successful isn't just numbers. You can't really measure it. It's your appearance and your ego and how you present yourself, right? And there were so many like delicate little egos in that film world. If you just said the wrong thing, you did the wrong thing, you know, you weren't popular. You weren't able to get success. And I remember one time I wrote a screenplay, which I thought was quite good and I thought could be an interesting film. And I had an agent, and I would go to places and they would say things like, you know, Robert, you should really go into theater. And it was kind of an insult. It was a way to say, you don't have that popular touch. You're too literary. You're too intellectual for it. And so I had that experience a lot. It's just, I can't really say it's the film world is awful as hell. It just was a very, very bad fit for someone who likes control, who doesn't like game playing, who doesn't like all the politics, who hates the ego games. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Other people, they're fine in that kind of realm. So it was a bad mix. I liked the glamour. I mean, I grew up in LA and I was around it a lot. And my grandfather was sort of, you know, he was attached to Hollywood in a sort of indirect way. He grew up in vaudeville, and he was a great piano player, and he was in sort of that world. He was Judy Garland's accompanist, for instance. So I knew that kind of glamour, and it is exciting and it is real. And I can remember the first day I was on the set of a film that we were shooting, and I was working with the director, and it was exciting, and the actress was beautiful, right? So there is something to the myth, okay? But the closer you get to it, the more that myth kind of crumbles and falls apart. You know, they have the expression, no man is a hero to his valet, right? You're to the person, you know, a valet, right? The person who's like your butler. You get too close to something and you see through it, and you see that a lot of it is just kind of fake. And then the weird thing was, I remember that first day on that set, on that first film, and I thought, God, this is really boring, actually. The dialogue with what she was saying, the scene they were shooting, it's really banal. It's not that interesting. And then the director goes, cut, and everyone goes, oh, that was fantastic. That was terrific. You're so wonderful. That was beautiful. All the fakeness, all the fake flattery, you know. There is the aura, there is some glamour, and there's some very beautiful people and all of that. But the closer you get to it, the kind of, you see through it, you see kind of the ugliness behind it, you see the fakeness, and you see that it is Tinseltown. It is as substantial as tinsel. I make the point in the laws of human nature that all of us are to some degree narcissists, that we should stop judging and thinking, well, that person is a narcissist, but I'm not. I'm so noble, I'm so saintly. The person who says that, who says, I'm not a narcissist, I'm so noble, I'm not like that, is actually a great narcissist, because they think so highly of themselves. They think they're so different from anybody else, but they're not different. We are all self-absorbed to some degree or other, right? You know, we're interested if we hear our name in a crowd, our eyes light up. Oh, they're talking about me. We all have that reaction. Get over your high-minded thinking that you're different. We all have that reaction, right? We want attention. We want recognition. Okay, but some people are what I call deep narcissists, right? Most of us are self-absorbed, but at moments in life we can get out of it, and we can show genuine interest in other people, in their story, in their lives, and what's happening to them. But there's a lot of people who can never get out to that point. They're so insecure. There's a reason why there are deep narcissists, and I explain why in that book. But so it's understandable. They had probably a very tough childhood in some ways, but they can't get out of their own self. They're so deeply enmeshed. They're so insecure that everything is about themselves. Every little thing that happens triggers their insecurities, right? And they're very dangerous people to be around. So yeah, almost inevitably, the difficult boss will be a narcissist, because if they had empathy, they would treat people better. They would treat people differently. And oftentimes people who rise to the top in this world today get there through their narcissism, because they're so ambitious. They're so out to get something for themselves. They'll screw anybody around. They don't care, right? They have no compunctions. Leaders in life are a higher degree narcissist, I believe, most bosses. Some are healthy narcissists. They can make things, they can do things, and others are not healthy. Are narcissists. They're all about trauma and turmoil and getting, having everything for themselves. I remember I worked in New York in magazines back in the 80s. I had a job. I quit this other job that I hated, and I moved to this new magazine, which is this glossy, very expensive magazine produced in New York. I wrote this article that I thought was really good. It was a stupid travel magazine, but it was very glossy. And so it was kind of a good position. And I wrote this article about a trip in Italy, etc. I thought it was really good. And the editor invites me to lunch. I'm expecting him to praise me. And in essence, what he was saying was, Robert, you are not a writer. You're not a good writer. You should quit this business. You're not disciplined. You're not communicating to the reader. And he was drinking. I remember drinking rather heavily. He had like a second martini. And I had this feeling like the image came into my head of somebody who kind of looks normal on the outside, but on the inside, it's like a house that is rotting. The foundation is rotting. I could sense something really wrong about him. And to do something to somebody who's like 23, 24, who's got all this hope in life, and to say something like that, you'd have to be like a deep narcissist.